Hey everyone, it's Iceman, and welcome back to a Destiny 2 theory crafting PvP focused video. And I'm excited to go through this one today because I have never really been known as a pulse rifle user in this game until I came across this role on a Stars and Shadow that we're going to talk about. Stars and Shadow as a pulse rifle is probably my favorite pulse rifle in D1 or D2 to this point. And I used to be a huge Hawksaw user back in D1, so that's saying quite a bit. The weapon, as you know, it looks like Redrix, it functions like Redrix, it has the same sights as Redrix. So if you liked Redrix Claymore or Broadsword, I think you're going to enjoy this pulse as well. But there's so many different roles you can get on it, which you can see up on the screen here. All kinds of different barrels, second column perks, but the really interesting part are the third and fourth columns. This weapon, you're able to farm out of Crucible. If you play Crucible a lot, you'll have a ton of chances at seeing different roles on this weapon because it drops very frequently. But you can see just in the second column, there's so many good perks for PvP. Surplus, Killing Wind, Quick Draw, Firmly Planted, I'm not as sure about. I'm not that big of a fan of because I move so much in the game. But Firmly Planted is also solid as well if you like holding lanes a little bit more. The last column, there's a lot of different options as well. And what's surprisingly, in my opinion, not highlighted, and we'll get into it in the build, is Snapshot there. I really like Snapshot on this weapon to make it feel more consistent overall as a fast PvP weapon. I'm really excited to show you guys what I've come up with on this build and weapon, so let's dive in. All right, let's get into a little bit more of the perks on the gun, the overall build that I have, just to synergize around the weapon itself, and to just show you how snappy and how responsive this weapon is in comparison to another Stars and Shadow that is a PvE focused role. So to start off, my Stars and Shadow has a role that is corkscrew rifling. I could go full bore, but I feel like the handling increase and overall stability from corkscrew is really nice, and the increase in range isn't that significant. Accurized rounds, which increases my range. Surplus, which increases handling, reload speed, and stability for each fully charged ability. And it's a lot when you have a lot of abilities charged. Surplus is very good. It's one of the newer perks that we've gotten this season, and it's very good. And then Snapshot. So if I don't have a lot of abilities up, Snapshot, it helps when I do, and when I don't, it definitely helps in making sure the gun stays snappy when I'm trying to aim down sights. And the same goes for handling masterwork. It just makes the gun feel more responsive and snappier overall. We're comparing that against the PvE Stars and Shadow that has extended mag, small bore, Genesis, and Thresh, which are both very good PvE focused perks, and handling masterwork here as well, just for a little bit of parity there with the handling masterwork. The rest of my build, I have Stompies on. You could go Dragon Shadow, but I felt like with Surplus and the snappiness that it gave the weapon here in general, I didn't need the increase in weapon handling speeds for that. The dodging reload is very nice, especially since I'm going to be using an Astral Horizon most of the time with this. Stars and Shadow takes care of most of the long range engagements. And then Astral Horizon is a Trials of Osiris shotgun. And I luckily got a very nice roll on mine. Corkscrew, tac mag, quick draw, opening shot, and a range masterwork. So the quick draw on this, I can swap to it very quickly if people are closing in on me, and just this takes care of all the close range engagements, while this takes care of all the mid to close and then long range engagements as well. So Stompies here, you could run Mask of Bacchus, Wormhusk. There's a lot of different options that you have for armor on a hunter, but Stompies has always been the most consistent. The outreach mods that I have here are very nice. I put 2 on because dodging is going to happen a lot since I'm at 100 mobility. And what outreach does is it gives you your melee, a charge back to your melee whenever you dodge. Doesn't have to be near enemies, it just does it in general. And that feeds into Surplus, which feeds into my shurikens that I'm going to be using on the stasis class most of the time. I get 2 shurikens, so I can keep dodging and keep recharging those. And going into the stasis class, you can see I'm using Gambler's Dodge. So if I'm dodging near people, I get a shuriken back. And then on top of that, I can charge from outreach. I'm using my wall grenade for shatter dive, obviously. Winter's Shroud, which slows when I dodge. So if someone's nearby me, I will slow them in an AoE and I'll get my shuriken back so I can use that to freeze them. And then obviously in my fragments, I'm using the damage boost. And then when I do my shatter dive, I start recharging my grenade. So the idea behind this whole build is to use abilities. We don't want to hold on to abilities because obviously they're very, very strong. But for surplus, for us to get value out of that, we want to make sure that we have abilities up as much as possible. So Gambler's Dodge, Outreach, just the sheer stats that we have here are ensuring that we have at least 2 abilities up almost at all times, if not 1. So it's a really, really interesting build. There is some more tweaking that could probably be done as well with different mods and perks and that kind of thing. And I should note that I'm using high energy fire and taking charge as well for that increase in damage when you pick up an orb, because obviously there's a lot of orbs on the field for masterworked weapons and that kind of thing. But there's a lot of different variabilities you can put in, but overall this weapon, it just performs. When you look at it and you kind of see how snappy it is right away, it just feels good. The sight is consistent no matter what. It has that Redrix, that old school D1 pulse sight that is not too far range, but it does enough work at range to be effective. But if someone gets in that mid to close range to you, so from me to that wall, you're still able to hit shots effectively, and there's not much blocking your view when you're trying to track people. So this weapon overall is just so consistent at various ranges. It's honestly the best that I've seen ever in D2. The reload speed that you see here is very, very nice, very, very fast, and that's from surplus. If you have a couple perks down, the reload speed obviously isn't this fast, but it's still much, much quicker than a PvE roll, which I'll show in a second. And you can see when I'm shooting the wall here, just how stable the weapon is. Those 3 shots are generally landing in the exact same spot. So it's very easy to 2-burst someone with this weapon. If I switch to the PvE roll, you can see just how much slower it is in general. It just does not feel nearly as snappy, not as responsive. When you're shooting, you can see how much further up the bullets go. They're not nearly as grouped and nearly as consistently up and down. And the reload, you'll definitely notice the reload is so much slower. You're not having that from surplus. And then switching to the weapon. So the quick draw here was fast on my shotgun, and it feels slow when you're switching back to the pulse mid engagement. If you go back to the PvP roll, you can see how fast it is every single time. And even if you use a couple of abilities here, it's still fast. The swap is still solid. You shoot, the stability is still very, very good. There's a lot of straight up and down, and the reload is not bad. And you can see when I dodge, if you look at my shuriken there, it jumped up a couple bars. It definitely helps in getting your shuriken back. And you can see how fast, because of my 100 mobility, my dodge is coming back. I dodge again. You can just see how quickly my shuriken will come back as well. So all this is feeding into itself. Even with 0 abilities up, the gun still feels very snappy because of snapshot, so it's covered there. But just overall, this weapon feels so solid and so consistent. You'll see in a couple matches coming up here soon just how consistent it is at various ranges, various types of engagements. Really, this gun doesn't have much of a weak spot other than very, very close range fights where the other person has a hawk moon or a hand cannon, or aerial fights. So those hand cannon aerial fights that you normally get into at a high level, this gun does not obviously perform very well out of the air, because I'm not using an Icarus grip. But even if I was, it would not be as consistent as a hand cannon in the air. So a bit more of a ground-based weapon, but just overall very consistent at all types of different ranges. With that, let's get into the gameplay. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any roles yourself that you've loved, if you have this role, what you've thought of it, and just what roles you've gotten in general. I should say you can get this weapon from the Crucible. You get it from Crucible drops. It's very common, so it's pretty easy to go out there and farm a good role for yourself. But there's all types of different roles on this weapon, which makes it very, very fun to farm. And with that, thank you guys. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. We'll be doing a lot more PvE and especially PvP content in the near future, so be sure to check back in, and then come say hello to me on Twitch. Iceman1H on Twitch. I stream at least 4 days a week starting around noon central, and I would love to come there, see you guys there, discuss PvP, discuss all kinds of things Destiny, and we play a lot of other FPS RPG related games. So thank you guys, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.
Control. I know you can fight, but can you hold territory? That's why we have fire team. Enemy claims zone A. Captured Zone B. Zone advantage is yours. Hunters like you blaze the path for the rest. 2 for 1. Triple down. Zone A captured. That's a power play. You took them. Now hold them. Double down. Hunters like you blaze a path for the rest of us. Zone C lost. Power play. Enemy has your zone. Zone B. Zone C captured. You have advantage. Show your enemy what a real fight looks like. Zone C lost. Have advantage. Zone B lost. I need a hunter like you with the red jack. Zone C lost. Power play. Get those zones back. Strong start. Fight on. Zone B captured. You have zone advantage. Zone A lost. Zone C captured. Zone advantage is yours. Your killing intent is unmatched, Hunter. That's why we have fire teams. Double down. Zone C lost. Your enemy has a power play. Down. Zone B captured. You have zone advantage. 3 minutes. You're winning. Stay strong. Zone A lost. Victory imminent. Zone C captured. Zone advantage is yours. Zone A captured. Power play. Keep the pressure on. Sound tactics bring victory. Impressive. You could give the Red Jacks a lesson in territory control.